if you have a client and they have a history of low back pain or chronic low back pain, but they're not in a flare and they're not recovering from a flare, like they're out of that rehab phase, you might find that they still have some restricted movements through their lumbar spine, or they just have this goal of making sure that they don't have a flare-up again in the future. So these exercises are for those people that, again, are not in any type of a flare-up. So we're going to start with teaser prep. We're going to have the long box on top of the reformer. This one is really great for forcing or encouraging your clients to find lumbar flexion, which can be so challenging for many people. We're going to scooch that bum forward onto the long box. We're not too close to the edge here because it can get really tippy. Hands are wide. I'm at 1 red spring. Stopper is all the way forward at 1. Gear bar is all the way forward at 1. Hands are a little bit away from the hips. And I do cue my clients to really find support in the straps here because that's going to help them balance. So for teaser prep, it's really important to make sure that they're flexing through the lumbar spine and we're not collapsing into a posterior tilt. So there is a difference. We're going to make some space here by scooping, deepening the belly button, thinking of creating a lift from the belly button up towards the bottom of the rib cage. So that's really aiming for almost like that thoracolumbar junction there, finding that deep core activation. Arms are long, picking one leg up and then the other one here. And if they can get this position, great. Often what I find is that people can be like, yeah, I've got it. I know what this curve is that you're talking about. But then they go to lift and they go back up into neutral. And that results in them losing their balance and then dropping the feet. So you might have to do a bit of prep for this population. Find the lumbar spine, one leg up, and then bringing it down, other leg up, and then bringing it down. And once they can figure out where they need to be, then you can stay there and do some arm presses. So really tricky exercise, but it's kind of fun because it really gets them to see those sort of concrete results of being able to achieve the exercise in its full form. Moving on, we're going to go into stomach massage. So this is an advanced stomach massage itself is more of an advanced exercise, but we can dumb it down a little bit or regress it. I'll not dumb it down. That's not nice. Regress it a little bit by bringing that foot bar down for someone that needs that. The traditional way of performing stomach massage is without the long box. So I'm going to actually show you both ways to do it. So sitting on your bum, we're going to come forward again. So finding this nice position here, curving into the lumbar spine, fanning the spinous processes apart without collapsing the chest. So we're going to keep that nice frame through the upper body, and we're going to round down and through, and then back up. So another way to really find that lumbar flexion, range of motion, trying to break through that fear of flexing forward if that was the direction in which your client perhaps herniated a disc or strained their backs. So there's that sort of remedial version. You can also, as I said, take the long box away. The full version of this one is to have that foot bar second from the top. You can also go all the way to the top if your client has really long hamstrings. I don't, so we're just going to do it this way. We're going to have heels together, toes apart, sort of the balls of the feet or the forefeet on the bar. Hands are on the shins, and we're going to press away. And as we do that, we're going to come into forward fold. And then coming back in. Reaching long, and then folding in. So a little bit of a nice hinge moment here, and then a nice sort of flexion moment. If you want to make this more challenging, you can add some trunk rotation. So as they press, they're going to open to one side, fold back in, open the other way, and come in through. So if you're adding this element of trunk rotation, it's less lumbar, it's a little bit higher, but if that applies to your client, go for it. It can feel actually really nice for anyone that has any sort of a rib stiffness as well. And then lastly, we're going to go into one of my favorites, So we're going to do side splits here, picking flowers. We're keeping the gear bar at 1 and the stop bar at 1. One heavy spring if you'd like. You can also drop down slightly if it's a newer client to 3/4 springs, but I do find 1 is quite good. We're going to have the, where is my platform extender? We're going to grab that platform extender, we're going to pop that on and drop the foot bar all the way down. So as always, stepping onto this side first because that's the unstable surface. We're going to have 2 feet sort of shoulder width apart, and we're going to press out through abduction. So because it's a heavier spring, there's a bit more work through the abductors here. Once we're here, we're going to hold that shape for picking flowers, and picking flowers is this arm work where you're reaching down towards one ankle, back up, the other side, and then back up, and then closing. So it can be a lot of deep core work, maintaining the width of the carriage while shortening in through the obliques. So I'm not doing a very good job demonstrating while keeping the carriage still. Let's try again. So without talking, and up, and then down, and then up, and then making sure that they're finding neutral pelvis on their way back in. So one of my favorite exercises, but definitely something that is scalable in the sense that you can ask your client to go down a little bit, well, not go down as far with their reach, because sometimes reaching down all the way to the ankle can be a little bit scary. I will say make sure that when they're bending forward, you cue to let the sit bones shift backwards and widen, because sometimes people grip through their hamstrings and they don't allow that shift. So if they're 2 step forward, they're not going to get very far, or if they're glute clenchers, they're not going to get very far. So really important to cue for sit bones and then folding and reaching through.